Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Radically Real. I am very excited to have Avery Lee in the studio with me today. We're going to talk about all kinds of things that you guys are just going to love, I'm sure. Avery, tell everybody who you are and what you're up to.
Hey guys, I'm Avery. I am a up-and-coming social and political commentator. Yeah, we're just here to have a really good conversation. I'm really excited for this. We were talking for a little bit before and it was flowing
hmm
nicely, so I'm really stoked for this.
I know, and you say you're just up and coming, but I don't think you should say that. I think that up and coming would be the wrong terminology for what you've got going on. I would definitely say that. I can't remember how I found you. I don't know. Someone must have shared something in a story or something, but I don't remember the exact post, but there is one that you shared recently that we just talked about, and I loved it so much because this is one of the reasons why I think your audience is drawn to you. As someone said, the Republicans and conservatives are never going to look at you like you're a real woman. And I laughed out loud at your response because of the way you said it. You were like, "Thank you, Captain Obvious."
Such a ridiculous kind of notion that leftists like to say that this is going to be this bad thing. Like, oh my God, they're not even going to view you or validate you. And it's like, well, I don't want to be seen as a real woman anyways. I'm a trans woman. I'm proud of my label. My people fought hard for decades in the 70s and 80s just to be able to be differentiated from drag queens and cross-dressers with their transgender and transsexual label. So I feel like I would be doing them such a disservice by trying to take over somebody else's label and call myself a real woman because I'm just not that it. It's just the biological facts.
And I think that's the problem that we're seeing nowadays is that people are not willing to grasp onto. We're not hating. We're just saying that this is biology,
Hmm.
and that's it.
Yeah. It's like I've said before that like when archaeologists dig me up thousands of years from now in some futurized civilization, they're not going to be able to classify me or know what I was internally in my brain. They're going to classify me as male because that's what my bone structure is. And they're going to classify me as male because that's what my jawline structure is. And there's other determining genetic factors that are just something you cannot change without extreme invasive surgery, which is not something that you want to do. And so as a result, it's just a fact that you have to kind of accept when you become trans is that like at the end of the day, no matter how many hormones I pump my body full, no matter how many surgeries I receive, my biological internal biology is still going to stay the same. It's not going to change.
I do know because I've always said the same fucking thing. I always say when they dig up our bones in 100 years, they're gonna say Cece was a 29-year-old. I always go with 29. They're gonna know our
24.
age, they're gonna know our age, our sex, they're gonna know all of these things about us just based on our bones, and if they've even found a fragment of bone and they did a DNA test, they would know that I'm a woman and you were a man.
And it's not detrimental to my identity to acknowledge this. It's not something that
Well,
completely
it's
invalidates
not
me.
hateful for anybody to acknowledge that.
Right.
It's
Right.
not hateful. Like, anyone who's calling it hate and bigotry and whatever you wanna call it, that's hateful and bigotry by saying those things about someone that just simply aren't true.
And I would even take it a step further and go to say that, like, by acknowledging my biology, I am affirming my transness even more because by definition, being trans is going from one gender to the other. And so by acknowledging that I was one gender prior and now I'm another, it's not like it's literally completely validating my trans identity. You know what I mean? By
Yeah.
acknowledging that I was biologically this at one point. And it's like, and still am technically biologically this. I haven't had any surgeries whatsoever. But
You just take hormones, that's it.
yeah. Yeah. I take a estrogen once every 2 weeks in the form of an injection, and then I take testosterone blockers called aldactone
Okay.
every day, daily.
Okay. Okay. That's so interesting. All right, guys, we're coming back from technical difficulties. We're really hope the audio is great. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all the places that it's available, you're going to get great audio. Video on YouTube might be questionable. Not really sure. Oh, it's
Hopefully
coming back.
hopefully it'll
I
fix
feel like
it.
it's coming back. I can see your eyes now. I can see you. I can see you. I had this happen not that long ago. I always have to joke because whenever I go to do something, I can see you perfect now. Whenever I go to do something on anything to do with like tech, something
Mm,
goes wrong. Like, and I always joke and I'm like, "Fuck, I always have tech issues." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I'm manifesting tech issues." So, I keep going, "I am a tech wizard." I never I
Faking it
never
till you
had
make
I
it.
fucking fake it till I make it.
Faking it till you make it.
Like, seriously, it's like and
I
I'm
am
like,
an IT professional. Nobody is better at technology than me.
I never have issues with fucking anything. Never, ever, ever, I swear to God, but, never fucking fails. I'll go to come down to do something on my computer, and I'll have tech issues for, like, half an hour before I can even start doing the thing that I only wanted to spend half an hour doing anyway, and it
Right.
ends up taking me an hour, and it never fucking fails. I do believe that a lot of the times it's the universe trying to, like, or I guess I should say maybe it's the devil. The devil tries to stop you from, like, succeeding, so
Mhm.
he's, like, trying to put all these, like, obstacles in my way to, like, make me stop doing what I'm trying to do.
Testing you. He's trying to test you.
Yeah, see if I'll just give up and stop trying,
Right,
but
and just take the bait.
take the bait, which a lot of people do in life.
You can't take the bait.
You know, I am a serial optimist. It's just how I've trained my brain, and I'm always like, "Nope, I'm gonna push through even though I wanna fucking throw my keyboard at the wall right now, and I'm not gonna let this shit piss me off." And it'll be like anything from, like, my computer loading so slow when I'm trying to make a YouTube thumbnail, or it is the most random fucking tech issues. I
And they say technology is supposed to make our lives easier.
I don't think it does.
I don't think so either. Sometimes I struggle.
Do you wanna
Like,
know
maybe
how
I'll
I
get, like
schedule my podcasts? In this calendar
I mean, honestly, it works. Some people, they like the
with a
physical
pencil,
write out.
with a
I
pencil.
love, I love, I love, I love.
Like, so when I'm like, "Yeah, I gotta put it in my old lady calendar."
Better than me. It wasn't until this year that I actually started using my calendar on my phone. Like, before I was just, like, raw dogging it by memory. It was like, "Okay,
No,
I have to go on this day, do this there."
I have a paper calendar, I have one every year, it's just what I do, I just find it a lot easier to, like, I'm a elder millennial, so it's just, like, it's ingrained in my mind to, like, write things down in a calendar. So, for those of you that are listening on Spotify, I have a, monthly planner that has cats on it. If you're watching on
Very
YouTube, you got
cute.
to
It
see
was
it.
very cute.
It's where I write all my stuff down and then I can erase it and move it around if I need to with my fucking Bic pencil that, like, pumps out lead or whatever you want to call it. Anyways,
Very old school with it.
I'm very old school with it. So when I tell people, I'm like, all right, well, I got to put this in my calendar, then I'm actually putting it in a real paper calendar like an old fucking
Physical
lady.
calendar, right. At least you're not carrying one of those, like, small little spiral bound planners in your purse or something like
I
that. It's
don't have
just
that.
like that.
No,
It's
no,
like you're not all the way there at old lady planner yet. But
no.
if the second you start carrying a little address book with a date with a schedule inside of it, yeah, no, that's
No,
when I feel like it's
you know
time to
what? I
retire.
barely, I barely like use a purse. I have lots of nice purses. Clearly, so do you. I barely use a purse. I'm very like stick my debit card in my jacket pocket.
I mean, valid, valid.
I used to have to get new debit cards all of the time because I would just keep them in my back pocket and I would just sit and they'd be like bent and my husband bought me a purse. This was years ago. This was when we were, like, still dating, and I was like, "I don't need a purse. I have a fucking pocket. This is all I need, my debit card and my driver's license." I just put it in my back pocket. I was such
It reminds me of my best friend. She hates purses, and she's like, "Why do I wanna go somewhere and be responsible for this bag? Like,
a
I don't I'm just gonna use my pockets for it,"
you
you
know?
know?
My friend got me the Lululemon, like, wristlet thing that's got the 2 pouches on it. She sent me that for Christmas, actually, and I was like, "Okay, like, this is alright." But then I'm in there and I've got this thing, like, dangling off my wrist, and I'm like, it'd probably just be so much easier if I just, like, put it back in my
Yeah, I
pocket.
don't know
Just
how they
put it
can
in
do
my
that with
pocket.
those really chunky keychains. I can't.
No, and I'm weird with my keychain. So my kids though, my daughter has got me like one is like a heart that says mom, and then another one is like a Playmobil princess keychain. And I fucking hate putting stuff on my keychain just because I'm weird like that. but I can't not put it on my
Right, it's
keychain.
from your kid, it's
It's
your
from my
kid.
kid, right? So
Exactly, you
I've got
got to. You have it's
clanky
obligations at this point. It's like the same obligation of when your kid brings you a
too.
shitty drawing and you have to put it up on the fridge, like, you have to support that, like
You have to put it on, and so I've got this giant fucking keychain now with all these things on it that I do not want, but it's fine, it is what it
I'm
is.
sure it makes your children so happy to see,
They
though.
love it and love it, and
Yeah.
it's funny because, like, whenever people see my keys, they're like, "Oh, look at your keys are so cute, like, look at your cute keychains," and I'm like, "Looks kinda like too many keychains, but it's fine." It's like
Cute is a subjective term, like
Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. So, I don't even remember what we were talking about before we had our technical difficulties.
We were talking about biological reality and trans identity, like, and how
Yes.
it's not bad to acknowledge that, and that when we're dug up in thousands of years, I'm still gonna be a man.
Yeah, and I'm
Uh,
still gonna be a 29-year-old woman.
yeah, 24.
For life. Well, and I think, going back to that, I just like I said, that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to you is because you don't deny the biological reality, and I think that's the issue that people are having. So it's
Mhm.
like for all those freaking insane leftists that just can't see it, it's like, guys, we don't hate trans people.
We hate
Avery
the
and I actually
behaviors.
had an amazing conversation before we came on here. Would a bigot do that?
No. Mm-mm, I don't think so.
What?
And it's also it really speaks volumes that the people on the left say things like, "Oh, you're gonna be put in camps, they want you dead, they'll never support you, blah, 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 blah." But at the same time, like, the only death threats that I receive and the only encouragements of, like, self-exit that I receive come from people of the left whenever I don't agree with their opinions. Like, I've had people tell me that I should just, like, what is it called? Suck off a shotgun, you know
Oh,
what I mean? And these are
lovely.
the same people who have, like, Free Palestine in their bios or trans rights or human rights, and it's like, "Okay, well, what about my rights? Just because 'cause I'm trans and I'm Republican, does that mean that my trans rights don't matter to you anymore?" It's,
Well,
like,
apparently
very
not.
odd. And then it's even more odd how many people of the left expect me by default to resonate with their party or resonate with the Democratic Party, and it's like, no, that's even more culty to me, is expecting
Yeah.
me by default just because I'm trans to support your party or your ideology. It's like, what happened to independent thought? What happened to having your own opinions at the end of the day? And it's very culty to me at this
Well,
point.
and just even as straight women, we're not even allowed to have an opinion on any of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's stupid to me too. I mean, I have a video planned that I'm gonna probably film after we're done with this actually. But it's a video basically about the whole like no uterus, no opinion argument that these people like bringing up. And it's so stupid. It's like we all have opinions on the Holocaust, but none of us are Holocaust survivors. We
Mhm.
all have opinions on 9/11, but how many of us were actually there the day the towers fell? It's like we all are going to form opinions on things in life. My mom used to always say opinions are like assholes. Everybody's going to have one,
Yep,
you
yep.
know? And so the longer you sit here trying to regulate the opinions of others and trying to dictate how others should think or feel about certain things, the longer you're going to end up in this quote, fascist ass regime. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because
Yep.
that's actually where the fascism is coming from. It's not coming from the administration. It's not coming from ICE. It's coming from these people who are trying to control your way of thinking and control your ideology and your mindset. And that's just not something I've ever experienced on the right. It's only been exclusive to the left,
I know,
you know?
I talk to a lot of gay and trans people about these topics, and it always just blows my mind that how are they not seeing it? The
Hmm.
fucking gay people and the trans people that know that they're not biological women see it. How are you not seeing it? What is wrong with you? I don't understand why you're not seeing it. Why aren't you
Right.
seeing it? The
Right. It's
gays and the
right in
trans
front of
people are
you.
saying it.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
just
and
the
it's
straight people.
It's like I was saying earlier too, it's part of the reason why I fled the left is because I was so sick of being told how oppressed I was expected to feel. I was so sick of being told that I was this big victim, this big target, and that I needed to worry about being myself because people don't like that. And then it wasn't until I left the left and I started encountering more and more conservative people and more Republican people, I started being exposed to people like Blair White, people like Charlie Kirk, people like Caitlin Bennett, Riley Gaines, like all these people, these big name people. I mean, Candace Owens even like, and I just started being exposed more and more to their content and more of their ideologies. And I was like thinking like, this doesn't line up at all with what I've been told. You know, this is not at all what I've been told how conservatives view me as, because a lot of these people or a lot of the people who follow these people are giving me nothing but love, you know? And even though I can sit here and at first I'll sit here and say that like when I first went over to the right side, I was still fiercely pro-choice. You know, I was still fiercely pro-choice. I was very much in the mindset of like abortion is healthcare, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and my opinions then, when I had conservatives who were very pro-life, it was never this moment of like, you're a horrible fucking person, you're just a murdering, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know, we were able to find a common ground and find that middle ground. You know what
Yeah,
I
well, because
mean?
then I think it's important to be able to talk to people about that stuff. I mean, I am pro-choice to a certain timeline.
Degree. To
To
yeah,
to a certain I do not believe in late-term abortion. That's absolutely murder. It's wrong. I do believe in a woman's right to choose up to a certain point in that pregnancy. If anything past 12 weeks, no, sorry, you can't just decide unless it's like severe child with severe disability, the pregnancy will kill you, like those kinds of things. Yes, I get that. I understand why women would want to make that choice. But if you're just like, I changed my mind, no,
right.
you
Well,
don't
I know
you don't
a
get a
lot
choice
of
then.
a lot of people don't realize too that things like ectopic pregnancies and stuff, while very rare, there's zero viability of the child. You
Exactly.
know, and so I, in my mind, don't even necessarily view ectopic abortions as actual abortions because it's
Agree.
a matter of
Life or death.
life and death for the mother and for the child. I
Yeah.
mean, the child obviously the child is going to die
Fred will
regardless.
never
It won't
carry to
make
term, and
it, you know.
the mom will
And the
most
woman
likely
would die
die.
from it. So in
She would
those kind
die.
of situations, I'm like, I think that that's where abortion should be allowed. And even in the cases of like, it's kind of it's another thing that I'm a little on the fence of because I do resonate with a lot of Charlie's viewpoints about pro-life or about like babies who are conceived in rape, that their life is just as important as the next person's, and just
Mhm.
because they were conceived in such a horrible way doesn't mean that their life should have any less value. But at the same time, I do understand how traumatizing, as somebody who has experienced rape, how traumatizing it can be and how hard of a decision it might be for a person who has experienced that to carry that child to term from there. But again, if you really look at the statistics of it, like I think it's less than 0.4% of abortions every year are due to instances of like rape, you
Mhm.
know, or like a sexual assault, you know, and then like even less than that, I think it's or no, I think it's like 0.5% of abortions that happen per year are in the cases of like ectopic pregnancies, medical issues, that sort of thing. Whereas 96% of abortions that happen every year are just because they just didn't want the child,
Yeah, and
you
I
know, and
think
that's like it's like a
you
huge problem,
well,
100%.
it is a huge problem, especially if you're using it as a form of birth control.
Mhm.
Like, that's not okay.
Right.
Um, it's just being a woman. I have had an abortion, and, I was very early on, but I was very young, and um, it was not the time for me to bring a child into this world, and yes, I made that decision, but it's like, if you're making that decision when you know, and you don't have it done right away, and then you wait until, like, 12 weeks or 13 weeks, and then you decide. It's like, "No, after that,
You kind of
sorry."
have to take the accountability and just ride it out,
Yeah,
and there's a million and one different resources available, especially nowadays, for parents to help with their children, to take care of their children. So even if you are in that mindset of like, "Oh, like, I'm in a really shitty situation, I
yep,
don't have enough money, I don't have enough resources or enough support," there's so many programs out there, even aside from adoption, that are going to help you, you know? I mean, mothers and children take a lot of priority when it comes to funding in this world.
yep,
And so as a result, there's thousands of programs, as there should be, to assist parents with their children, you know. And I'm also not one of those people like I will never sit here and judge somebody for like what their past consists of. You know
for
what I mean?
sure,
Like I know that there's a lot of conservatives that I know who will sit here and say like, oh, just because you did that at one point, that you're still a murderer. And it's like, I'm not like that. You know, I look at the intent behind it too.
for
You know, it's
sure.
not necessarily like, and you weren't in this mindset of like, I just don't want the baby. So
No, it
it's,
was like, "Oh my god,
and
I"
like,
for me, it was like, I cannot
right,
take
right.
care of this baby, like, I
And
can't.
my best friend, for example, her name's Kat, she's the hairstylist that I was telling you about. We disagree on a lot of different points. She's very fiercely pro-choice now, where I'm very fiercely pro-life. But she's had an ectopic pregnancy. And there was at one point where me and her had to have a conversation where she like sat down and broke down crying. And she's like, "Do you think I'm a murderer because I had to abort this baby? Like, do you think that I'm a bad person just because I had to do this?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not, because your life was on the line."
Yeah,
And also that baby was never going to be able to be carried to term anyways.
yeah.
And so I think that like the intent always is going to matter, and the circumstances are always going to matter a lot more than just having the freedom to do it. You
Well,
know what
that's
I mean?
exactly it, yeah, you can't use it as an opportunity to have one just because you can.
Right,
I think
right.
that's a huge, huge problem, and, I can definitely see the nuance of both sides. I would say that is probably one of my most liberal views that I have, because everything else is pretty far the other way. Um, and I know a lot of people will come for me for that, and that's okay, because like I said, I don't believe in late term abortion. I think that's fucking horrendous. Unless the baby's gonna die and you're gonna die. Like that's different. You know what I mean? I think that sometimes is what has to happen. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. And then I just look at the world as a whole, and I'm like, I think we have a lot of other things that we
A lot more
we
important
should
things
be
to worry
concerned
about.
about
Yeah.
right now. Like, um, everything that's going on right now is absolutely fucking terrifying, and I wish people would stop turning this into a right versus left thing, because at the end of the day, that is not what this is anymore. This is just right versus wrong. We need to understand that, like, we're mad at everybody. The Democrats, the Republicans, we're mad at Pam Bondi for the way that I don't know if you saw the video I made, and I put a bunch of blonde extensions in
Mm-mm.
and
I don't think I did.
pretended to be Pam Bondi.
Gosh.
Have to watch it, it's really funny. I just think the way that she's handling it is horrible, and she's clearly not a parent. Any woman in her position, who knows what's in those files and the torturing of children and those videos, that unless your mental health can handle it, don't look it up, but they are there, and it is terrifying, the things that you see and you
It's
hear.
very graphic and very volatile. Yeah,
And
that's
if
for sure.
she knows those things and is still protecting these people,
It's very tasteless.
she's
Yeah.
just a big of part of the problem as anyone else is. And I think, 'cause I people are always like, "Oh, you're a mega this and mega that and blah blah." I'm like, "Well, no, it's not true." But you can call me whatever you want. At the end of the day, if I lived in the US, I would have voted Republican based on
Right.
policy, not person.
Personhood, 100%.
Just like here, I voted conservative based on policy, not person. It wasn't like, I just love Pierre. He's so cool. It's like, no, these are the policies that I'd like to see put in place. This is the person who's trying to put them in place. So that's who I'm going to vote for. So it's the same thing when it comes to the US. And I'm a dual citizen. I'm also an American citizen, which is why I care so deeply about what's happening down there, because my kids are also American citizens. So it's
Mhm.
like we can end up living down there one day. So I care about these things, but at the end of the day, people, like, just you need to realize that this is right versus wrong. It's not one person that did everything. It's
It's people
all
on
of
both
them.
sides.
It's
Yeah.
people on both sides.
It's no longer a right versus left issue. It's a matter of right and left versus the global elites who are controlling the world and destroying it. Like that is really what the situation has become to now. And it's no longer this whole like, oh, we need to be fighting each other, because that's exactly what they want, to keep us distracted from what is actually going on.
Well, that's just
You
it. It's
know?
like the things that you've got all these crazy things being passed when there's chaos going on. Like, it's fucking insanity. And and I guess, we get called conspiracy theorists all the time, and that's fine, because it's like, how aren't you seeing what's happening?
Yeah. Well, and it's like we should have believed those conspiracy theorists who were going off about Pizzagate way back in the day. I mean, I remember this was like 2014, 2016. I mean, people were talking about like the Wayfair cabinets being named after missing exploited children. Like all these incidents, we had these things in our faces. I mean, and there's so many videos of like celebrities doing interviews where they're literally like just blatantly saying it. I mean, I'm pretty sure Roseanne Barr did an interview at one point where she literally said they were eating
Yes,
babies.
I've posted
You know?
about, well, one of my videos that's going viral as we speak is the Roseanne Barr video with Tucker Carlson, and the comments, "Oh, but then why did she vote the biggest one in and the one who's the head of it all and blah, blah, blah," and it's like, "Oh my god, like, guys."
The whistleblower? The person who exposed it all?
So that's where I'm trying to find that. Well, I told you what I was trying to find before we came on. I'm still trying to find it because people say it's in there. I haven't been able to find it yet. But it's like we have to look at we don't need to look at who someone voted for at this point. We need to look at who did it, who did the crime, who's going to do the time. And clearly, the DOJ does not give a fuck. They don't
It's like a
care.
we will probably never actually see any real prosecution happen in this case, and we will actually probably never see any of these people who were involved actually serve any time. And when it comes to these like really powerful multi-millionaire people, I mean, the most they're going to experience in the day is like a slap on the wrist with maybe some fines, but nine times out of 10, Biden's not going to jail. Obama's not going to go to jail. Clinton's not going to jail. None of these people are going to serve any real time or get any real repercussions for what's happened.
Well, and
And that's the sickest part.
it's the sickest part, and I think that, like, people are so fixated on Trump that they're forgetting that there's pictures of Clinton.
Mhm.
Guys, there's pictures, okay? Like, I how much more proof do we need?
Yeah. Well, I
Like
mean, and it's very well known that Clinton and, what is it? The Clintons in general have been affiliated with Epstein for many, many years. I mean, I
mhm,
don't know if you remember back in when Hillary was running against Trump for his first term and her election or her emails were leaked and she had an email from Epstein saying that if that man wins, we're all going to hang for it. And so it's like these people have been playing in our faces for years,
well, and then
you
you
know?
have to look at stuff like that and say, "Was he involved? Was he involved?" It's
It doesn't
I
sound like somebody who's involved. It sounds like somebody who's about to bring the hammer down on you guys about it. I mean, and it's like I said too, one of the first things Trump did when he took office was he went after Epstein. He implicated, I can't remember, implemented, I can't remember the exact like executive order he did, but it was like an executive order that was combating like child sex trafficking,
Yep,
making it like a harsher crime or something like that. And then he also purchased property that Epstein was interested in just because just out of spite. He bought property out from under him so that he couldn't form his, expand his fucking
yep,
trafficking ring.
yep. Well, and we have to look at the fact that, like, he won the election by a landslide, and not because he's Trump, because of policy, and I wish people would just open their eyes to that. Like,
I mean, if you asked a lot of Trump supporters nowadays if they actually really supported Trump, most of them are going to tell you no. I mean, I
exactly.
voted for him for 2 terms now, and I don't really like him as a person. I voted for policy. I voted for the things that he was going to change. I voted for the America First kind of mentality that he was pushing.
Yeah.
And while I don't think that he's fully delivered on that yet, I do have confidence that he will eventually. You know.
And I think there's a lot of things that are happening, like, we look at the situation with ICE, which is terrifying. Um, I agree that illegal immigrants need to be taken away. I don't agree with maybe in the way that it's being done, but I think that the chaos is happening because of all the people trying to impede ICE. That's creating chaos. Just stay the fuck out
100%.
of their way. And should American citizens have been shot? I don't think that they should have, but they also shouldn't have been
Should not
there.
have involved themselves.
They shouldn't
Well,
have been
and,
there.
a lot of people don't realize too, I don't know if you've heard of the creator Cam Higby. He's like a
Mm-mm.
conservative political activist. He has been in Minneapolis for weeks now, just like documenting a lot of the stuff going on out there. And he posted a video recently, where they have this insane, in-depth, very sophisticated, like anti-ICE groups, like programs that they're doing with each other, where they are like literally going out and they're patrolling areas like
Yeah,
vigilantes,
yeah,
and they're just labeling vehicles that they suspect of being ICE as ICE agents, and then they harass and they target these people. And it's like it's this kind of rhetoric, and it was proven that Renee Good and Alex Pretty both were part of these groups, and they were doing what they were doing because they were instructed by these groups, and it's like, and when you get these types of situations, it's like ICE agents aren't trained to handle this. They're not trained to deal with massive crowds of 40 plus people screaming at them and trying to harm them. They're not trained for this. This is not what they're trained to deal with, and it's weird that none of these people had this outrage when Obama was deporting millions of
I know.
people,
I know.
you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
I do.
he was named deporter in chief. You know what I mean? Because he deported so many people, and it's ridiculous. Where the focus is only on Trump and what he's doing. And while I do agree with you that, like, I think some of the tactics these ICE agents are having to resort to are pretty extreme and I don't necessarily agree with, but I also know that the reason they're having to is because this environment is being created by the left where it's okay and normalized to be violent towards these people,
Well, and I
you
think
know?
we look at, okay, so Nick Shirley, he exposes all of the fraud in Minnesota, and then what happens in Minnesota all of a sudden? Complete fucking chaos. So let's distract the masses.
From the massive multi-million dollar fraud that's happening out there. You know, and I've seen people try and sit here and say that because Nick Shirley opened the fraud, like that's the reason why Renee Good got shot. And it's like, no, she got shot because she tried to run an officer down with her vehicle. You know, like that's exactly why she got shot. If you look at it frame by frame, you can see his feet literally sliding against the
Well, and
concrete as he's being
they
pushed with
lift
the
up a
vehicle.
bit too.
Yeah,
And do I think she should have been shot? No, of course I don't think she should have been shot. Like, and I think that's where people have to find that nuance is that like, no, I don't think these people should be dying, but they shouldn't be there.
right.
They should
I
not
don't
be
think
there.
I don't think she should be done, but I also do think I think that the officer's actions in that situation, at least I find were perfectly justified.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and I think that especially because that officer had been involved with another incident, like a few months prior, like 6 months prior, where he was actually hit and dragged by an anti-ICE protester's vehicle.
Yes, I
And so
heard
he had
that.
just been back in, like he had just gotten back onto his force essentially.
Well, and then
And
there's that
so
also that thing like should he have been out there after that? Maybe not.
yeah,
Like it's such a like at
maybe
the end of
not,
the
but
day,
it
she shouldn't have been out there. She shouldn't have been doing what she was doing. She was laughing, smiling, all of these things. And you know, it's hard to say what I would do if someone was trying to run me over and I had a gun.
I definitely I sympathize for the people who think that it was wrong and that, you know, I just that officer had a family to get home to also. And I do kind of agree with the whole like maybe he shouldn't have been out there too, but also like sometimes people like I mean you see it with officers all the time who are involved with like on job incidents. They are desperate to get back to work because they just love doing what they
Yep,
do.
yep, yep. It's
You
so
know,
true.
and so, like, this officer, this Jonathan Ross guy, he was probably just desperate to get back in. He's like, "I'm doing the good thing. I'm helping rid the country of these illegal criminals, and, you know, and so I wanna get back out there. I wanna go out and I want to keep doing this." And do I think maybe he probably should have received a little bit of mental health evaluation probably first?
Yeah.
But then again, we have no idea. He could've.
Well,
He
and we
might
don't
have.
know we also don't know what their protocols are. So I've always said that
Exactly.
too. It's like, I don't know what their protocols are. I don't know, like, what their training is. I don't know any of that stuff, so I'm definitely not gonna pretend to. All I can say from an outsider's perspective is, like, maybe they shouldn't be being shot. And but again, I don't know what their protocols are, so I can't say for sure. Like, I honestly don't know. I think with the Alex Preety or whatever his fucking name was, maybe they could have stun gunned him or tased him or something, you know? Uh, I I understand why the shots were fired because they thought that he was reaching for his gun, but at some point, whoever disarmed him probably should have made that way more clear. So there's so like it's just a double-edged sword because, like I said, I agree that they need to go. I had to jump through hoops to get citizenship for myself and for my kids, and you know, I'm so grateful that I did it. But I did it, and I went through the process, and I did the things to get it. And the issue that I have with everyone complaining about them, oh, they're just removing just people and breaking up families and blah blah blah. Listen, if you are in the country illegally, that is a criminal act.
Yeah. No,
Period.
it's literally a crime, and people will say, "Oh, no, it's a civil violation." No, that's still a crime.
Even if you're
Running a traffic light is a civil violation. It's still a
Even
crime.
if even if you're just trying to contribute to society, if you are here illegally, it's a crime. Period.
And if your goal is to come here to contribute to society, one of the first things that you should be doing is trying to gain your citizenship so you can actually contribute to society. Contributing to society doesn't mean just going out and working at a job and hoping that it helps. No, contributing to society means that you're contributing to taxes. You're paying into 401ks. You're, you know, donating to these businesses. You're going out of your way to actually contribute and you're doing it in a lawful, legal way. You know,
Yes.
I have no sympathy for these people who moved here 30 years ago and have lived here for 30 plus years and still have yet to get any sort of documentation with immigration. It's like, dude, I don't have sympathy for you. You know, I don't have sympathy for the fact that your kids no longer will be able to see you. And it's like, if you cared that much about your kids being around and you being able to have a relationship with your kids, you should have made sure, like you did, to get your citizenship in check, because the last thing you wanna do is put yourself in a position where you're being separated from your children because you didn't wanna follow the law, you
And that's
know?
the whole thing is this like, "Oh, these people aren't criminals." It's like, well, they are
They
because
technically are,
they
and
technically are.
I will even
Just
go a
because 'cause
step
they're not
further.
bad criminals doesn't mean they're not criminals. What they're doing is criminal.
The vast majority of people that ICE is going after to round up to are actual confirmed violent criminals as well. Like,
Yeah.
they are going after the worst of the worst of these people. They are not going after little Juan who does your gardening for you. They're not going after little Brenda who works down at the taqueria. They're going
At
after,
the
you know,
taqueria.
the freaking the criminals who are like trafficking children, who are funneling drugs into our country, who are murdering and killing US citizens. Like, these are the people they're going after, the people who have been ordered to leave, who have been ordered to leave the country and still refuse to, and it's like, and that's like, for example, with Renee Good, I mean, the person they were going after was a convicted child trafficker, and so it's like, and this woman died protecting him, and that, like,
Which is
that's a really bad look.
well,
You
and
know
it's
what I
sad
mean?
because she has kids.
It is sad. Well, she wasn't very involved in her kid's life
No,
to
she
begin with,
wasn't, but, like
but it is heartbreaking still nonetheless that those kids will never be able to have any sort
well,
of
I'm just
relationship with their
speaking
mom
from a
again.
parent view. It's just like, do you even know who they're trying to go after? And you're
Right,
trying to protect this person, and you're a mom.
right.
Like, how
Your
can
children could be their victims, you know? God
I do.
forbid.
I
God
do.
forbid.
Well, and I think
Yeah,
why I became so passionate about all of these types of topics, especially like the transing kids one, is because I'm a mom. I'm a fucking mom. Like I want to protect protect my children. And I think when people have an issue when you say protect the children, if you have an issue with that, you're the fucking problem. That's
100%.
you are the fucking problem. And we get such a bad name as, straight women. It's just because like, we say those things and people hate on us and we're all of these fucking things. It's like, I'm sorry, but like I'm a mother and I am going to do everything I can to protect my children from this and other people's children from this fucking crazy shit.
I always say children are sponges. They're products of their environment.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
honestly, personally don't necessarily even believe people are born gay. I think that something happened in their childhood or they were exposed to something and it kind of creates a shift. I mean, think about how many times when you were a kid, when you saw like people in your class that you really admired doing something cool, and then you started picking up that hobby to be cool like them.
Of
You
course.
know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so, and
100%.
it's kids are constantly trying to create a relationship with people and they're constantly looking for validation from others, whether it's people older than them or people that are friends with them. And so, like a kid, for example, we were talking about this earlier, is why I would never want to have like a younger child, because the last thing I would want my child to be is confused to think that he needs to transition in order to be loved by me or in order to build a bond with me over something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very confusing to these children. It's very confusing, and they can easily misinterpret what you're saying and take it as, oh, like, oh, I like dresses, that means I have to be a girl. No, no, you just like putting, I freaking loved wearing Barbies, okay, but I was still a man for 15 years of my life,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
And
I
so
do.
it's like a lot of these parents nowadays are taking these small minuscule signs of like, oh, my son wants a pink sticker instead of a blue sticker, or my son wants pink shoes instead of blue shoes, and they're like, oh, he must be a girl. No, no, your son just likes the color pink.
I was such a
You know,
tomboy too. I was like, I would have been
right?
fucked if, this was back
If you were
then.
like that in this day and age, yeah,
I
you would
was
have so
such a
many people
tomboy.
telling you that you're a man and that you need to transition in order to make yourself feel good about yourself. In reality, you just enjoyed being a little bit more laid back with
Well,
it. You
and
didn't want to be a girly girl.
I developed breasts very early on. So I started to get boobs in like grade 3. My boobs are just some next level humongous, okay? They are some big boobies. So, and I started getting boobs really early on and I was really self-conscious about that because I was the only one that had them and I was like destined to be big booby girl. Um
Big
it
Booby Girl is crazy.
big booby girl. These are some big boobies, okay? Um, and I was always very self-conscious of them, so I was always wearing, like baggier t-shirts and like kind of just trying to like hide them all the time. And then I moved to New York. I started 11th grade in New York, so we moved from Canada to the States. And even then I was like a 90s raver girl, so I was like always wearing like baggy clothes and just looked like a tomboyish. And then when I finally started to dress a little bit more feminine and when I came back to Canada, everyone thought I had a boob job. I was like, "No, I was just hiding everything before." I was like, "They've always
Right.
been this big."
That's so funny to me.
Yeah, but I was just, like, constantly, like, trying to cover them because, like, they're so fucking big. I don't mean to be like, "My tits are so big." I actually hate it. But there's a 2 to 3 year wait to get, breast reduction surgery, but I can say I'm a man and get them cut off in a few
Yeah.
months, so that's cool.
It's kind of ridiculous that it's working like that, that, like, you can just sit here and say that you're trans and get the surgery faster versus if you actually just need it because you're, like, suffering from back pains, you have to
I
wait.
have the indented shoulders, I have chronic back pain, like, upper back pain, lower back pain. I mean, like, dude, like
And I'm sure
they're huge!
even you I'm sure you'd still have to pay a lot of money out of pocket for that surgery in general, right? Or is
Not
it
here.
completely
No, it
covered?
would be
Oh, okay.
covered. It would be
Oh,
covered.
that's right, you guys have, like, universal healthcare
We
out
have
there.
socialized healthcare. Everyone thinks that it's so great. It's not, okay? Um,
Longer wait times is all it means, is that you just have to
it's
wait
insane.
even longer in between your appointments,
You
yeah.
know, my son has an anaphylactic allergy to cashew and pistachio. It took us 18 months to get him in with an allergist.
Wow.
What
That's
if,
ridiculous.
like, what if he somehow came in contact with those nuts between
Right.
the time we were waiting? He could
And
have
I'm sure
died.
you have to wait just as long to get, like, an EpiPen or something for him.
I mean,
Like,
EpiPen we can get right away, but they won't give you an EpiPen unless he has a confirmed allergy, and it took 18 months to get the fucking
mm,
appointment.
yeah.
Like,
Oh my
thank God he
god.
didn't come in contact with that, but, like, if
Right.
and it's anaphylactic, like, let me tell you, we've seen it happen, and it's fucking terrifying, but it's, like,
Mhm.
18 months just to get the appointment to tell us that, and then I waited 2 years once for a colonoscopy for them to tell me that I have a gluten intolerance. 2 years.
That's
Yep.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous, to be honest. I mean, I found out the hard way about my allergy. I'm allergic to most fish and shellfish,
Okay.
anaphylactic to it as well. My throat will start swelling up.
Yep.
And I found out the hard way when I was very young that I was allergic to it,
Oh,
just
that's
like
so
that.
scary.
You
That
know,
must've been so
it was
scary for
terrifying.
your were you in the foster system then still, or
I was, yeah. So I was about 13 years old, 14 years old, and I genuinely, for like 5 minutes of my life, believed that I was going to die. Like, I genuinely thought it because I couldn't breathe.
that must have
And,
been
like, the
so
ambulance
scary for
showed
whoever
up,
was taking care of you.
they had to shove a tube down my throat just so I could breathe. It was
Whew.
so scary. It was because my
Well,
throat had completely closed up on itself.
my son went in for, allergy testing, but they wanted to, like, give it to him to see what the like, we knew he was allergic to it because he had had all the skin testing done, but we didn't know, like, what the reaction was. So they went in to do a food challenge, they call it, to just give him some of it just to see. He had, like, the tiniest little bit of cashew milk and went into anaphylaxis.
Oh my god, that's so scary.
And
That's so
then well, thank
scary.
God he was in a controlled,
Area, right,
environment,
obviously, but
but
I'm
he
still sure.
needed 3 junior EpiPens and then a huge one to get it to stop, and then he ended
Wow.
up in Emerge because they were already at the hospital, but then they move him over to Urge, he had to Emerge, he had to stay in the hospital overnight, and, like, he's 4. He's fucking
Yeah,
4. And then it
yeah.
happened again by mistake at Christmas. He ate something, this Christmas goodies that someone said that were good, that were, like, safe, and they weren't. He ended up having to go to the hospital on December 23rd. I was like, "Oh my god, what if he's not home for Christmas?"
Oh my
He ended
gosh.
up being fine because we had to give him the EpiPen at home, and then my husband took him to the hospital. But fuck, it is so terrifying. I will say, like, the socialized healthcare here in Manitoba is a lot better than it was in Ontario in that we were able to get him in to see a new allergist here pretty quickly. And they're the
Good.
ones that did the food challenge, which, as scary as it was, I appreciated that he had it because now we know how bad the reaction actually is.
You know what to expect,
You know
yeah.
what to expect. But the whole thing just with socialized healthcare period is that people think it's so great, but it's like it's not great to wait almost 2 years to find out that your son could die from nut allergy. It is not great that I have to wait 2 or 3 years to get breast reduction surgery. It's fucking
It's not right.
bullshit. Well, and
It's
the
not
other
right.
thing is my cousin, she just finished treatment and has been cleared, but had triple negative breast cancer, which is the worst kind that you can get and has the most probability of coming back. And she asked for a mastectomy, and they told her that they don't remove healthy tissue. I'm sorry. You do remove healthy tissue from lots of women that want to be men.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. How can you sit here and say you don't remove healthy tissue, but you're transing people? Like, that's so awful.
You're
Was she
getting
able
gen
to eventually get her treatment though?
She got her treatment,
Okay.
she's had chemo and radiation and all of the things, but she didn't have them
Double
as
vasectomy?
no,
Mm.
no, she
Is
listened
she
to the
doing
doctors.
how is she doing
She's
though?
doing really great, her scans have been all clear, everything is looking really great. It's only been a year,
That is
so,
good.
they say that, with every 5 years that it doesn't return, your chances of survival are bigger, but this type of cancer, typically, they say it comes back within the first 5 years. If it doesn't, then, your chances are better.
So
Um,
scary.
it was, but just the whole I told her when she told me that, I said, "Oh, just say you wanna be a man." I was like, "They'll cut them off then, no problem."
Right. They can't force you to stay a man after that and be like, "Yeah, I changed my mind after. I just wanna be a woman still. But thanks for cutting my boobs off. Now I don't have to worry about cancer." Like,
We don't remove healthy tissue.
so
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Mhm. And, it's stuff like that that really makes me angry is that you can get gender affirming care before you can get care that you really need. And
Mhm.
I'm a perfect example. Just from being told it's like a 2 to 3 year wait list to get breast reduction surgery.
It's so awful. It always I feel like I was one of those people that had kind of thought that, "Oh my god, they have universal health care. It must be really great up there to not have to pay for anything." But, like,
That
I've
part is
I've heard a
great, but
lot of people, yeah, with the almost the exact same story as you from Canada
dying
who
in
are
the
just
waiting
like,
room
"It's
is more
not."
likely what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not as good as people like to make it seem it
Well,
is.
and then we look at this unfortunate shooting that's happened in BC, last week. This system just fails people every single day because if you want psychiatry covered by your province, it takes almost 2 years to get through the wait list to get covered for psychiatric help. Otherwise, you have to pay for it. Who can afford to pay for that right now? People can
Right.
barely afford to fucking live.
It can and it racks up, it gets expensive.
It
It can
gets
get very
extremely
expensive.
expensive. So, yes, we have universal health care, but, like, when it really matters, we don't. Like, you can get MAID, which is medical assistance in dying, before you can get help, like
That's ridiculous.
psychotherapy or whatever you wanna call it.
It's true. You guys have, like, legal assisted suicides up there,
We
huh?
do. And you can
Yeah,
get that
it's
before you can get
so I have, like
psychiatric help.
I it's another one of those points where I'm very on the fence about, like, I very much in the idea of, like, I think people who kill themselves are cowards, but also I understand how much pain it takes to get to that point. Because 'Cause I've been to that point before. I mean, I've tried to take my life several times, but, I think that my mindset has shifted a lot over the years where I've started just finding more appreciation in life, but
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The system here I find is it's broken. We cater to addicts. Like you can get you can go to like a place where you can legally do drugs that the government supplies and they don't check your ID. You could be 16 years old in there and they'll give you fentanyl
so
for
ridiculous.
free. Yeah, you just go in there, get high in a controlled setting so that you don't OD. It's like how
That's
about how
the
about we just pay for them to have treatment and stop giving them drugs?
And it would probably cost us about as much money as it would to open up these, like, free drug use clinics, you know? It's just like you're just enabling these people at this point, and the goal should be to get them sober and get them healthy again. Like, it should not be, "Oh, well, they're gonna do it anyway, so we need to make sure they have a good space for it." Like, I understand the intentions behind it are pure, but at the same time, all you are doing is
Enabling
creating
drug
an
use.
incentive. Yeah, you're creating an incentive for these people to do it because 'cause they're like, "Oh, well, I don't have to worry about it anymore because I can just go down to, this location down here and do it all I want, and nobody can say anything. No police can stop me. No police can arrest me for it."
When you can
And
enter
it's
with
like
no ID.
and no idea, and like you said, who's to say that these people that are entering are of age, you know? Who's to say these people aren't, like, 14, 15-year-olds who are just, like, destroying their lives on the government's dollar, you know? It's sick.
It's
It's
fucking
sick.
sick, and, I know people advocate for these types of programs, like, "Oh, well, they save lives," and I'm like,
They take more lives than they do.
it's like,
See, that's for
maybe we
sure.
should stop enabling their drug use and get them help. That would save their life, and then they could become a contributing member of society instead of, being on food stamps and doing drugs that the government literally gives
100%.
you. Uh, uh, I will never be on the side of the fence that says, "Oh, it's saving their life." Like,
Mm-mm.
no. I'm sorry,
No.
my tax dollars are paying for their drugs.
Yeah, no, as somebody who was an ex-drug user, if that was a situation if that was something that was available to me back when I was using, I would be dead right now.
Isn't that isn't it crazy? Like, the
Yeah.
government literally supplies it, like, it's fucking insane to me to think that we would rather spend money on giving them drugs than to get them help. But
It
it's
almost
like,
makes me wonder if it's intentional, if they're trying to do some sort of, like, population control or something like that, like, that's I know that's
by keeping them
bordering on,
alive.
like
They're keeping them
yeah,
alive.
I know, but, like,
If anything, don't give it to them.
I feel like I don't know, man. You just you hear about all sorts of deaths like that whenever those situations or those kinds of, programs open up, you just hear, like, the death tolls just climb
I know.
from there,
I know. It's
and
because they let
it's
them
so
continue to
sad.
use drugs, and
Yeah.
so, people look at our healthcare system and think it's so great. Listen, I had 3 babies. It was great to not have to pay for the, the
The care
medical
for it, right.
stuff, and because I was an older mom, like, I did require extra tests and extra care and stuff like that because, I'm considered a geriatric pregnancies. That's what they after anything after, like, 35, you're geriatric pregnancy. I was like,
Is
"Gee."
that really how they classify
That's what
it?
they
Oh my
call it.
gosh.
So I was 36 when I had my first daughter, 39 when I had my son, and 40 how old am I now? I'm 43. I was 42 when I had my last one.
That was so real. That was so real. How old am I now? That was so valid.
I
Like,
just don't even know. I just stopped counting, really. But, so you have to have all these extra tests and stuff. So am I grateful for some aspects of it? For sure. Like, that would have cost me thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Even if I had insurance in the States just to get the copay covered, it still is thousands of dollars. And, uh, I'm grateful for stuff like that, but I can look at the system and say, "It could use some work,
percent.
use some
I mean,
work."
our America system needs tons of work. So, I mean, you get pregnant and you wanna go have a birth at a hospital, and then you're looking at, like, $40,000 that you're
Yeah,
gonna have to pay out of pocket.
yeah.
Most insurances don't cover stuff like that,
Well, and I had
and
2
so it's
C-sections, so I had 1 vaginal birth and 2 C-sections, and that's a
which would
fucking
that's
major
even more
surgery more
expensive. Yeah, even
expensive.
more expensive. Yeah, it's sad, and there's so many people who literally go into debt just to have children down here. And while I think thinking about the situations, like I would still much rather have to pay the money to be able to see a doctor sooner than have to wait 8 months. In order to find an appointment. I mean, that just sounds like a living hell, especially if you're like dealing with like severe pain or chronic pain. I can only imagine being told like, yeah, our next availability is like 8 months out, and you're like literal like dying of pain right now.
But, like,
Like I
legit
just
though, you have people that need, like, hip replacement surgeries and shoulder replacement or just whatever they fucking need, and they're being told, "Oh, like, yeah, we'll put you on the wait list."
so awful.
Yeah, so
It
it's
is
like
so
it's
awful.
good and it's bad, like, I I get why people would see the appeal, but because I lived in the States for 9 years, I know what private healthcare is like, and it's
Well, it
like,
sounds like the appeal that people are seeing is like a fantasy appeal of it. It's like a diluted version of what is actually. They're like, oh, well, they have universal health care. They don't have to pay for anything. Yeah, but they have to wait 9 months for appointments. They have to wait years for appointments.
yeah,
And so it's like when you really think about it, like on that level, it's when you factor in everything, it really doesn't sound like that good of a thing.
it's really not
And
that
you're
great.
paying. I'm assuming you're paying insane amounts of taxes too, just to
Insane.
fund it.
Yeah, it's
And
absolutely
it's like you're
insane.
paying all this money still, regardless. I mean, sure, it's free universal healthcare, but you're still having to pay for it essentially. And then even then, like you can't even get in for sometimes up to a year,
Yeah,
2 years, 3 years. And
yeah,
it's like that's just not right to me. And I feel like if I had to choose between the two, I'm gonna choose paying thousands of dollars for my care if I have to, just to be able to like get a doctor then.
or I'll
Any
drive to the
day,
States, like, we're only an hour and a bit
right?
away from the US, I'll just go to North
And
Dakota and find a doctor
you
there.
have that dual citizenship, so you can do that whenever you want,
Yeah, well, any
whenever you
Canadian
want.
citizen can. Any Canadian citizen, whether they're a citizen of the US or not, they can go down there and pay for it, and doctors will see them. Um, like, you can go down there, you can go to the States and pay for MRIs, CT scans, all of those things, and sometimes people do it because they know they're not gonna get in here for who the fuck knows how long,
Yeah,
and
I've seen videos of people like Canadians who are like grouping up to go across the border just to receive like tooth care, health care, prenatal care, like that sort of thing. And they're totally willing to pay the price that they have to pay in order to get it because they know that their alternative is to just sit and potentially die while they
yeah,
wait.
yeah.
It's awful. It's really
I
awful.
had really great doctors through my pregnancy and the same OB delivered all my children, and I'm so grateful to have had that experience with him, and he was a wonderful OB, and I was really lucky. Like, I don't wanna bash it completely because I did have great experiences through all of my pregnancies, but there's been things that through these systems that really aren't that great for
Mhm.
everybody. It's just that they're not, and just even that instance with my son, just to wait 18 months to find out about his he could have fucking died.
He could have had an incident and died 100%. It's scary and it's terrifying.
It's terrifying, and I think that, like, anyone who has experienced both like, I have the right to say which is better because 'cause I've experienced both of them, and private healthcare is amazing. I remember we were in California when was this? It was before our daughter. I wanna say it was maybe 2016 or something like that. I was, down in California for a Pravana training. I used to educate for Pravana. And my husband ended up in the hospital there. There's a whole thing. He has this issue with certain foods. His esophagus will close and then he can't swallow. He can still
Mm.
breathe, but he can't swallow. So, because whatever it is gets stuck in his esophagus. So,
Right,
he's had
right.
this happen in Canada a bunch of times, and then eventually the food just passes and it's fine. But this time it wasn't. So, we ended up having to go to the hospital. We were in the hospital for 6 hours. We had, in that time, had an EKG, had an X-ray, had some sort of IV put in with like muscle relaxants to see if whatever it was would like loosen his esophagus and it would just pass through. Then he had anesthetic and then a procedure to have it was a hot dog to have it pushed through and a
Mhm.
diagnosis that we had been trying to get here in Canada for years. His doctor here was like, "Oh, it's just built up scar tissue and yeah, it just happens from time to time." But actually what happens is it was actually an allergic some type of allergic reaction. There's a word for the condition that he has. And we had that in 6 hours in California, whereas here we were waiting 10 years to try and like figure out what was causing this to happen. And it turns out he just needs to take this certain medication all of time so that doesn't happen. But even the doctor in California was like, "Well, I found you a food challenge place in Detroit. That's like it's as close as I could get to you guys. Like I think you should really like look into this." And like he was willing to go above and beyond, and we had a diagnosis. Up here, they're just
Mhm.
like, "Oh, yeah, you just have scar tissue and blah, blah, blah." But literally, like, the doctor came out, he's like, "Yeah, he's waking up from his anesthetic. We just pushed the hot dog." It's so funny. We just pushed the hot dog through. And he said, "And Matt has this, condition called blah, 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 blah." I don't even know what it's called. It's written in my phone. And he's like, "This is a normal esophagus. This is Matt's esophagus. And what happens when he eats foods that trigger these types of allergies, his esophagus closes and says no." And, it was amazing to me that in 6 hours and keep in mind, we also had our own room. In Canada, you wait in a fucking hallway with, like, 25 other people. We had our own room. They're coming in. They're like, "Do you want a heated blanket? Do you guys wanna watch a show? Can we get you something to eat?" And my husband has never experienced private healthcare in his entire life, so he's like, "What the
You
fuck?"
talking to me? Like, what?
He's
What do you mean? You're saying you guys get this here? Like,
so he's experiencing private healthcare for the first time, and, he's like, "What is this, the Ritz-Carlton?" I'm like, "It might as well be." But that's the thing is people don't realize is that you get taken care of, and that all happened in 6 hours, whereas if it was here, God knows how long we would have been
6
waiting
years,
in
6
the
months.
hospital for him
Yeah, 6 decades.
to get the food just to even push the food through, like, how long that would have taken, and, that's a perfect example of how private healthcare trumps socialized healthcare all day long, just from personal experience. Because people are like, "Oh, yeah, socialized healthcare. You guys, we have the best healthcare," and that's people in Canada. I'm like, "Pfft." I was like, "Eh, you need to experience private healthcare before you fucking say that what this is better,
Is the best. Right. Yeah,
because it ain't.
110%.
That shit is not. No. Mm, mm-mm.
110%.
It's scary, and I don't know if you've probably seen the reel kind of run a poster around. It was of a inmate in British Columbia, and he did very horrible things to a 3-month-old baby that rhymes with grape,
Mhm.
and also drowned a toddler, and he was a teenager when this happened, and so gets put in prison and then decides that he's going to identify as a woman. They get him breast enhancement surgery, move him to a women's facility, and then he starts abusing women in the prison.
Wait, the prison system paid for his breast enhancement surgery.
Well, the healthcare system did, and the prison allowed it.
First of all, I think if you're the second you go to jail, you should be excluded from receiving any sort of care like
Why
that. You
are
made a decision, right?
prisoners
Right.
receiving gender affirming care?
While meanwhile, real women and real men are actually out here struggling to receive just adequate health care to begin with. Like,
But
that's
we're
just
but
not right
but
to
we're
me.
letting
Yeah, no, Canada has some really fucked up laws when it comes to trans ideology. You don't even really need any documentation or proof. You can just say you're a woman and you're a woman and it has to be accepted. I don't know if you remember, one of the time at the time when I found or came across Blair White's content, she was going back and forth with this person called Jessica Yaniv a lot. And they were this person who was from Canada who had been exposed. They were a trans person from Canada who had been exposed for trying to organize a like topless pool party for little kids and stuff. And he would also go to like waxing places and ask them to wax his genitalia for him, which a lot of these waxers were not comfortable doing and were not trained to do because it's completely different skin down there and you
yeah.
can't just wax it any way you
No,
would
no,
normally
I
wax.
know that, I'm a certified
And
esthetician.
then he would go, and after we would get denied at these waxing places, he would go and file a lawsuit against them saying they were discriminating against him for being trans, and he, as a result, ended up getting a lot of businesses shut down, like, closed down fully because of it, you know, and Blair White did this whole exposé on him, and, like, it was a live stream situation where they're literally going back and forth and talking, almost like how we are right now, but Blair White's just confronting him on everything, denying it all, and then eventually at one point he, like, pulls a taser out on her on stream, so she gets him arrested. But he's now back in the news again because 'cause I'm seeing new articles about him. This was, like, what, like 2019, 2018 that I'm talking about this situation? But now I'm seeing new articles where he's, like, firing it back up again. He's going around and he's harassing these, you know, women's beautician clinics or like, I think he went and filed a lawsuit against a gynecologist's office because they wouldn't see him. And what do you need to go to a gynecologist for? You know, like you don't have the facilities for that. You
That
know
is
what I mean?
absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
I
It's sick.
it's sick, and the system here is completely fucking broken. It is so sad, and to why we are catering to this, like, tiny minority, and again, I have to say this because, you know, we have to say this. It's not because we hate trans people, you fucking idiots. We don't hate trans people, but
I don't think she would
something's
be doing
gotta
this interview with
give.
me if she hated trans people. I'm just gonna say that, guys. Like, I don't think she would have even had me on if she hated trans people. I'm just gonna say, you
And
know.
anyone who knows me in my personal life, and I hope you and I can get to know each other more, knows that I am so, like, loving of the LGBT community, and I love my gay friends, I love my trans friends. I just it blows my mind when people say the things that they say to me and that I'm racist. Like, one of my best friends is black. Like, I'm not fucking racist, but I can
Right,
call a spade a spade. Like,
right. Right. Well, and also a lot of something a lot of people don't seem to realize too is a lot of these mindsets and rhetorics that we have that might be considered controversial root from the people that we're up there about. You know, so like the whatever mindset or whatever opinion you might have had about like your black friend, for example, probably came from your black friend. You know what I mean? It probably originated from them. That thought originated from them first, and you were like, you know what? You're kind of making sense. It gets making a little too much sense. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and a lot of my thoughts came from actual women, you know, real women, biological women at the end of the day who were like really breaking it down and explaining it to me like, you know, you're not going to be able to experience these things that I experience as a woman, you know, and it was like once I really started understanding that, it was like, why am I fighting so hard to be called a real woman? Why am I fighting so hard to be called something that I will never be? You know, it's like, and why am I not proud of the fact that I was called that I'm trans? It's like I said before, like my people, my trans brothers and sisters fought for decades in the 70s and the 80s just to be called transgender, to be differentiated from drag
yeah.
queens and cross dressers alike back then. We fought so hard, and I would be doing them such a disservice if I were to just remove that trans label and only call myself a woman at the end of the day. It's
Well,
just so weird. And that is why a lot of conservatives respect me and respect the content that I do, is because I am living in some form of reality. Maybe I'm not living fully in reality because I'm still doing what I'm doing, still dressing how I am. And that's fine. Nobody has to agree with my identity or
well,
my
and you're allowed
ideology.
to have that self-expression.
100%.
Like,
But when it crosses the line is when you start having to rewrite words, you start forcing other people to change their mindset, you start telling people that they can't believe this or they can't believe that or they can't, acknowledge things. And 9 times out of 10, these things that they can't acknowledge are facts.
yeah,
It's the reality.
yeah.
And it's like that's when you're crossing the line really bad. And then especially when you're involving children,
Well, and I
because
think
like
that that's
it's
what it comes down to. It's like
mhm,
like it has nothing to do with the fact that people want to be trans. Number one, you should make those decisions when you're old enough to make those decisions. I'm sorry, that's just what I fucking think. You should
1000%.
go on hormones or whatever the case is when you're old enough to decide that that is exactly what you fucking want. There's
I
nothing
think the
bigoted
age
about that.
restriction I think it should be 25 across the board. I
So
think
do
you shouldn't be
I.
waiting until your body fully develops like I did. I
Yes.
mean, that's what I did for hormones. Presented female for years, and it wasn't until I was around 25, 26 that I actually began medically transitioning
Yeah.
because I wanted to give my body a full chance to develop. And as a result, I will experience far less issues and far less negative side effects or reactions in the future from this, because my body's not going to be fighting against hormones to finish itself up.
Yes, I do. I love these types of conversations with people like you because it's just like it's proving my fucking point. It's like, guys, it's not like it's not that we don't think transgenderism isn't a fucking thing. Of course it's a thing. We know it's a thing. We're not trying to deny that. We're telling you stop fucking transing kids and doing these things to children. Please be your most authentic self. I want that for you. 110%. I want that for everybody. I believe authenticity is like
The most
so
important thing.
so
Yeah.
important, but not when you're not old enough to make that decision.
I always
Period.
say too, like my rights as a trans person mean absolutely nothing if I'm stepping on or impeding on the rights of other people in the
Well,
process.
and that's the
You
thing is
know?
that we're giving up so much. We give up
Hmm.
so much as women. We lose our spaces. We're not allowed to be called women anymore. We have to be called people with uteruses and birthing people and people that are pregnant, like pregnant
Stupid.
people.
Cis. I hate that phrase.
I
Cis. I
don't
think it's
want a
just so
label. Why are you
stupid.
calling me that? I don't even want to
Right.
be called that. I'm just a fucking,
Your label
I'm just
is
married to
woman.
a
That's
man.
it.
That's it.
Just woman.
Just
Like that's all it should be at the end of the day. I hate the idea. And it's like the same people who got on Christians for years about throwing it down their throats are the same people who are now throwing their trans and gay ideologies down the throats of everybody else. And it's like I said in a recent video, it's like as long as you're not transing children, you're not pushing it on children, you're not invading women's spaces, you're being respectful and you're not forcing other people to accept your reality, you're not playing pronoun fucking police. Conservatives are not going to give a fuck what you do at the end of the day.
no, we don't really.
I've
We
had so
really
many
don't care.
conservatives. Yeah, I've had so many conservatives who comment on my post will say like, "Wow, you've completely shifted my opinion on trans people. I used to think they were all crazy. Now I don't think that
Yeah.
anymore. Like
Yeah.
now you're the first trans person I've agreed with, first trans person I'm giving a base W to. Like, I get these comments all the time. That's exactly why I do the way I do is because or do what I do is because I want to create that unity. I want to really create a community where we can all even have differing opinions but still love each other nonetheless,
And
and
that's
get
the whole
along
thing is
nonetheless.
just open dialogue. It's like I know when I
Mhm.
told people that I was like going to have a podcast like and talk about these types of things. Now we also talk about other things on this podcast. Wait, I
Right.
I just did an episode last week about nervous systems. It's okay to have like open dialogue about these types of things whether you're straight or gay or trans or bi or whatever the fuck that you are. It's like open dialogue. Talk about these topics especially because we have to protect the kids.
Mhm, the most vulnerable class of people needs to be protected, yeah, 100%.
And I feel like of we're gonna see a wave of conservative parents coming where, we're gonna have a little section of kids that are really fucked up, and then we're gonna have a nice wave of, like, conservative raised children that truly love everybody,
Yeah,
and
and
they're
the pendulum has swung so far left at this point that the only place for it to go now is to swing back the other way.
yeah,
And so as a result, we're going to see an insane shift in not just the way people parent them, but how society is treating children from now on.
yeah,
Where children are now going, it's exactly like you said. We're going to see a massive influx of Christian parenting, of conservative parenting. I mean, we already are seeing an insane drop off of trans children,
mhm,
which isn't even a thing, but for years in like the peak 2020, 2019 times,
Mhm.
it was at like an all-time high where it was
Mhm.
like 1 in 8 children or something like that were trans or identifying as trans. And now we are seeing an insane wave of detransitioners and a lot of people who were identifying like that back then when they were being brainwashed by social media to believe they had to, who are now like, this isn't me. I don't want to be like this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
that's
have an episode dropping tomorrow with a detransitioner. Now she started to transition more into adulthood, but she still realized because I don't think she was quite 25 yet. She still realized that she'd made a mistake and that the testosterone was literally killing her. And it's a really great episode. And it's like, these are the types of things that we're going to start to see.
yeah. Well, and a lot of people, I'm gonna go and say, like, being a trans man, transitioning from female to male is you are putting so much more damage on your body than you are for me. Because I mean, there's trans people who are detransitioners who've come out and said that like they can't even speak. Like it hurts to talk because their vocal cords have been so
Well, and
damaged by the medications.
we're not designed to have vocal cords that are that thick.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and then people who experience all sorts of fertility issues, like I was saying earlier, it's like I'm completely sterile now because of this, you know? And what if I was a case where I was trans for 4 years and then I decided, you know what, this isn't for me, and I decided I want to have children, my chances would be fucked because I wasn't told this in my medical. Because, okay, so nowadays they have this thing, or I should say this, let's start with this. Back when I was in high school, okay, because I had the opportunity back when I was like 15 to transition and start hormones against my parental guardians' like wishes, because I was in the foster care system. They were willing to go over my parents' wishes in order to get me prescribed on these hormones. But back then, it was so much more difficult in order to even get that meeting. You had to have like documentable therapy for X amount of years. You had to have been living documentably as the gender that you wanted to present as. And you used to have to go through so many hoops. And then 9 times out of 10, you had to pay out of pocket for your hormones, right? And nowadays, they have this thing called informed consent, which is the stupidest thing in the world to me because all it is they sit you down in this doctor's office. For me, an example, I went in the day that I got hormones, I went in and met with a doctor that I had never met with before, in a doctor's office I had never been to before, who had none of my medical records whatsoever. And I was in this appointment for maybe like 20 minutes, and then I left with a script for estrogen. And all I had to do in order to get that was sign this packet, which is called informed consent. And it's basically a giant packet which lists out every single risk that you're potentially taking by doing this transition, by going through with this, like every possible thing that can go wrong, right? How many people do you think are going to actually sit and read that entire
Oh,
packet? Or how many people do you
buddy.
think are just going to be that excited to start their hormones? You know, and that was where I was at. My mindset was like, I don't care about this packet. Like, I'm not worried, like kind of thing. But I had wished that I had thought more about it in that moment. I wish that I had actually sat and read through it because that is what's really going to tell you what's going on. But these doctors, they're not going over it with you. They're not telling you anything. They're not saying, oh, by the way, this is something that's at risk. This is something you're going to be at risk of. This is something you need to be worried about. Like, they're not going for
No,
it.
they're
They're
just
just giving you
saying,
this
"Here's
packet and
this
that's it.
packet, sign it."
Because that's the bare minimum they have to do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's way too easy nowadays for somebody who is considering being trans to go out and receive that trans care. And that's why it's such a problem because it's not being as regulated as much. You know, and these are all, not just hormones that were created, these are not just medications that were created for trans people. 90% of the medications that trans people utilize were created for biological women to begin with. Estrogen was created for biological women who had lower estrogen levels and higher testosterone levels. Aldactone was created for the same thing. Progesterone was created for pregnant women.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Don't I
But
know it?
we have utilized these in order to receive trans care, but it's just it shouldn't be as easy as it is to receive that.
I
You
know.
know what I mean?
Yes, I
Especially
do.
when, like you said, biological women are having a hard enough time to receive that kind of stuff. You
To
know?
receive any kind of fucking care,
Any kind of stuff. Yeah.
especially with socialized healthcare. Um,
Especially.
and the thing is that, like, it I want people to also understand it's not because I don't want it's not because I don't not want you to have your hormones. Of course I do if that's what you really want. And I think that's where people get us all wrong as more conservative people. And like we've already talked about, I do have some left views, but I am more conservative. They think that like we don't want you to have the care that you need. They think that I don't want you to have your hormones. Of course I fucking do. Of course I want that for you. I just don't want you to do it to kids.
Right. Well, and you also wanna make sure you also just want me to do it for the right
I
reasons
wanna make
too. I
sure
mean,
that
a
you're
lot
making a
of
choice that you
for
really
me
want to
personally
make and
exactly.
that you're ready to make this choice and that you understand that now you are infertile and that you're
Mhm.
not going to
And
be
these are
able
the
to
risks,
these
and
are the
these are what's gonna
risks.
happen, yeah.
And if this is what you
And
want, I support that 100%.
being trans, and I would even go as far as to say being non-binary, which I don't really believe
I
in,
know, I think that's so
have
stupid. It's
become
one thing where I'm
political
like,
identities.
"Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it makes no sense.
I don't
They've become
identify." I'm like,
political identities
"You
lately
need
in
help
recent
if you
years.
if you don't identify. You need
Right,
help.
right.
There's something wrong."
And with the influx of social media and with how prevalent it is nowadays in modern society and how much access these kids are having to it, all it takes is some kids to come across some trans creators and all of a sudden they're being influenced into thinking that they need to be trans.
Mhm.
I mean, will never forget there was this was back during like COVID time. There was a creator on TikTok named Ticks and Roses, and she was a creator who was known for her like she had Tourette's and she would like do videos of her with like having her Tourette's outbursts and her tics and stuff. And it ended up coming out to light that she was faking it. She never had Tourette's and she was completely faking it for the
Oh
videos.
my
But
god.
there was so many cases of after the fact of people who were fans of her and who were watching her, who were developing these tick-like behaviors, you know what I mean? And they were essentially developing Tourette's because they were being so exposed to it at that point. And maybe it wasn't actual Tourette's that they were developing, but they were developing some form of it, you know what I mean? Where they were acting and mimicking these behaviors that they saw this Tourette's creator do, you know?
That
And
is
and it's like
insane.
so many people and with nowadays with people who go out there and they like self-diagnose themselves and they do no real research into the actual condition they're self-diagnosing themselves with, or they don't even actually meet with a doctor. It's like that's where this stuff leads to. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It leads to these people who are adopting these and mimicking these behaviors that they're seeing somebody else do because either A, they want to fit in, they want to be unique, they want to be special, they want to be XYZ, they want to whatever. You know what I
I
mean?
do.
Or it's sometimes subconscious. It's not even really trying to mimic it, it just happens. But that's where it ties into the whole children are products of their environment. They're sponges, they're going to absorb everything. There's a reason why you don't cuss around toddlers because they're going to immediately mimic
Oh
it.
my god, and they
You know what
do.
I mean?
Like, honestly, I'm a
Exactly.
sailor, I have a fucking sailor's mouth, I don't give a fuck. I do, it's just how I talk. I know people hate that, I don't care, but, like, your kids, they pick
The
it
kid,
up.
yeah.
We were
They'll
at
they'll pick it up
we were at
and they'll listen to it.
Starbucks once, and, just when we had my daughter, and I think she was, like, just had turned 3 or something, and we're we're in the drive-through, and she's like, "Oh god, would this fucking car move?" And you can't not laugh because it's so funny and perfect context.
I'll never forget when I was a little kid, I think it was, like, 6 or 7 years old, and, my mom's friend was over with her daughter, and her daughter was, like, a really, really bad influence child, like, she was very, very outbursty, very, very loud and ridiculous, and she started throwing a tantrum at one point while she was at her house, and so, my parents' friend had to leave, and what is it called, they're like talking about the girl, the little daughter. They're like, yeah, she's so fucking crazy, like I don't know why she started freaking out like that. And I am like sitting in the corner of the room playing with my toys, wanting to feel involved in the conversation. I'm like, yeah, she's just so fucking dumb. And I all I heard was like my parents like, get the soap, where's the soap, where's the soap. And, oh my god, and it was, like, so self-conscious, it wasn't even me trying to say it, it just happened, it just came
Well,
out.
she
But it was because I was literally hearing them say the same phrases right before me,
and
it was
it's true, and they do that, my kids, I've heard them swear, and they know, like, don't stay like, swear at home, as I honestly don't care, I'm gonna be honest, I know people don't like that, but I really don't care, as
it's words
they know not to say that outside of the house, we've had those
in front of other
conversations,
adults,
but I
yeah.
can't even get mad at her if I say it and she uses it in perfect context. How can I even be upset about that? I remember one
I feel
time
like you have to be more proud than upset
I
in
mean,
that
for
moment.
real. My husband frickin' farted, and we have a video of our daughter, and she's like this. She's so little, it's so funny. She's like, "You tooted, it fucking reeks." Her little
So
face, and
good.
she's so fucking cute. And her face, she's like, "You tooted, it fucking weeks."
Nothing's cuter in my opinion than when little kids cuss.
It's
I
so
know it's
funny.
bad, but
I
it's
don't care.
so
I think
funny
it's
and cute.
hilarious, and you can judge me all you want. I don't fucking care, people. It's just like it's
I'm
so
not a parent, it's not my place to judge anybody else's
but they
parenting.
do absorb. They're little sponges.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that a lot of times these ideas are being put into their heads. And
1000%. And in the form of those teachers like we were talking about,
you
you know,
can't
being taught it at
confuse
school. Yeah.
them, you can't
No,
confuse them, it's so
you really
important,
can't.
like, they are little sponges, uh, I had a client sitting in my chair once, and I've told this story on the podcast before, so people are like, "Ah, you've already told this story." I don't care, I'm gonna say it and scream it from the rooftop so people understand what's happening, is that my client's sitting in the chair, and she told me that they are to assume that a child or children are keep in mind they start kindergarten in grade 4 in Ontario. I mean, sorry, at age 4 in Ontario. So they're 4 years
Mhm.
old. They are to assume that these children are a they, them until they specify their pronouns.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's so fucking it's really making it's not the dog. It's really not. Playing with Barbie dolls, he must wanna be a girl. It's like, "No, you're playing with Barbie dolls
Eh,
because his sister
you know,
be involved."
it's
You know?
I
Your
do.
daughter enjoys playing with monster trucks because her brother plays with monster trucks and she wants to build a bond with him. Or one of her classmates does. Or maybe she just really fucking likes monster trucks. Why do we have to make everything
I'm a
trans
car
or make
person. Does that
everything
make me
this?
gay?
Yeah,
Because I like cars? Like, I've always been into
right.
cars. That's just been my
You
thing.
need to you know what? You need to
Transition.
transition
I'm
because
gonna
you like
I'm gonna
cars.
be a
You're
man.
trans now. You're trans now. No, I'm just
Like, it's
that's exactly how it goes, though. That's literally how it goes,
I know,
you know?
I know.
And, like, I've seen videos of people saying, like, "Oh, like, you need to learn to recognize the signs, and when you start seeing the signs, you have to, like, have a conversation." It's like, "No, don't even entertain the signs. Don't even feed into them. Don't even point them out." If your kid your son comes to you and he's like, "Mom, I wanna get this Barbie doll." I'm like, "Okay, cool, that's fine. Barbie
Let's get the
doll. Let's
Barbie
move
doll.
on."
Yep.
Yeah, let's move on from it from there. There's no need to be like, "Oh, you want a Barbie doll? Does that mean you wanna be a girl?"
Yeah.
Does that mean you wanna dress up in pretty princess dresses too? No.
I
No.
know.
It's so stupid.
It's
Like,
insanity, and I remember her telling me this teacher, and I've told this story, and I know some people don't believe me. This is true. This is what she freaking told me. I was just like, I can't send my children into this cesspool. I cannot
don't blame
fucking
you.
do it.
I do not blame you one
And
bit.
it's
And
not
honestly,
because I want them to think that it's wrong to be trans or gay or any of those things. I don't ever want them to think that. And they know that same-sex marriage is a thing. They know that people of the same sex can love each other. They know all of those things. I still do not think that should be part of the curriculum at school.
no. And they should also it should be something that's waited until they're old enough to be able to make that decision themselves and understand the real life consequences of it. I think it's silly that like things like religion aren't allowed to be taught in schools, but gender ideology is totally allowed to be taught in schools. I mean, that's just so backwards to me considering how much of a Christian nation we are
We
and
were
how we were
built on
founded
Christianity.
on Christianity and the principles of the Bible.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, our it literally in the original, like, state in the Declaration of Independence or something like that, or state constitutions, like, I think it was, like, almost all of them had that you had to profess Jesus Christ as your savior into them. And so it's ridiculous that now we can't be taught about religion in schools. We can't even talk about it in
Because
schools, but
it offends
it
people.
offends people, right. But,
But we
it's,
can
like,
talk about
totally fine,
ideology. That's fine. That's
even
fine.
if it offends people.
Yeah.
Like, it's always focused on what is good for them at the end of the day, and it's not focused on what's good for the whole. You
That's it.
know what I mean?
Yes, I
Like,
do.
if you wanna teach gender ideology, you know what? I would be willing to allow that to happen if you guys brought back religious classes. You brought back schools that were teaching religious fundamental principles, religious history. You had an entire class dedicated to, like, Bible history. Bring a Bible history class into it, and then we can talk about you teaching my kid gender
Well, and
ideology.
then let them choose what they wanna learn.
Exactly, and not teaching them in the sense of, like, showing them or telling them all about I mean, teaching them just being like, letting them know these people exist, you know? I think that's totally fine a conversation to have with your children to, like, let them know gay people exist in this world, trans people exist in this world. You don't need to be like this in order to be loved or validated. You don't need to feel this way, but you need to understand that these people are out there. Totally fine with me.
Well,
But it becomes
exactly.
another thing, like, I saw this video of this woman, she was like, "Oh, one of my kids was, like, showing signs of being trans, and so I had one of my trans friends come over and sit with my kid and let my kid ask them as many questions, inappropriate questions or whatever that they wanted to." And it's like, "No, why are we exposing them further to this kind of stuff? If they're already feeling confused, let them work that out with a therapist or with or just don't even enable it. Don't further confuse them by putting a person in their path like that
Allow
and
it to
making them
be what what it is for
Yeah.
the moment until it unfolds into what it's meant to be, and do not let that happen until adulthood. If the trans people are saying it, at least the common sense ones, and the gay people are saying it, guys, we gotta start listening.
It's time to start listening, 1000%.
Like,
And
it's
more of us are waking up every day, and it makes me so incredibly proud because we have essentially with all the stuff that's happened in this past year, we have essentially secured Republican presidency for the probably next 8 years,
I mean,
8, 12
let's
years.
I mean, let's hope so. Let's freaking hope so.
I'm fully confident. I mean, California is about to have a Republican governor.
I saw that.
Did you know that?
I saw that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. So
hope the
I've been
same for
planning on
Canada. I don't think that'll happen. I think we're fucked for will be liberalism for God knows how
yeah.
long.
But the way the California gubernatorials work is that it's like they don't have a primary election. It's like an open primary, and then whoever are the two top leading electees or whatever I can't think of the word right now. Um, there who they are who go on to, like, actually go against each other head to head in, like, the official primary for the governor position. But right now, the 2 leading people are the 2 Republicans that are on the ballot, Sheriff Chad Bianco and that other guy, I can never remember his name, like, Steve something like that.
Don't know.
Um, but I mean, how fucking great would that be if we got a Republican governor and they just undid all of the bullshit policies that Gavin Newsom has implemented in the past decade,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, I
And Nick Shirley's here in California right now. He's down in Southern
start
California right now
exposing the
investigating
fraud.
leering centers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's investigating the leering centers out there.
I mean, I just when I heard that, I was like, "Watch the chaos drop in Cali. Watch
It's
the."
already dropping.
Yeah, because
It's already
that's
dropping.
what's gonna happen. They'll expose the fraud, and then all of a sudden something crazy will happen in California. It's just how it goes. And I hate it because it's just fact, and how people aren't seeing it, I don't understand. Minnesota's a perfect fucking example of this. Like, fraud gets exposed, complete chaos ensues there. And, "Oh, poor Minnesota, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Poor Minnesota, they just took all your money."
Right. They just defrauded you out of millions of dollars.
Well, we'll wrap up anyway. So in closing this off, I would really love for you to send a message um to a couple of people. Number one, to straight women who feel this way, that want to talk about this boldly and loudly like I do, and to parents who are trying to medically intervene with their children, about how they should wait.
Yeah. I mean, I think 100% to the women out there that fall into this line of reasoning, I think that you are completely valid in your feelings that you have. I don't think that you are transphobic for thinking that it is like that men can't be women. I don't think that that's something that is bad in any way, shape, or form. And I really encourage those people to keep fighting the good fight, keep standing for what you believe in, keep creating those conversations and that dialogue. Because as in the words of the great Charlie Kirk, the second that conversation stops happening, that's when we need to be scared.
Mhm.
That's when we need to start worrying. And so
100%.
it's important to continue standing up for what you believe in, no matter the cost, no matter the fears, no matter the labels that you might be hit with, because at the end of the day, that's how real change happens.
That's
And
exactly it.
I love you. I see you. I support you. You know, I you will always have my back, and you will never you will, or I will always have your back, and you will never catch me in the women's room.
I'd let you come in with me. I would. I'd let you come in.
And I've had so many people that say, like, honestly, somebody like you, I'd have no problem
No
in the women's
problem.
room. It's like, still, I don't need to pass. I'm like, I like the men's room. I like shooting it up with the guys in there, chopping the shit in there. Let's talk about some cars while we use the urinals.
And do you still stand when you pee?
No, no, actually, I haven't stood to pee in probably like 7, 8 years now,
My
maybe.
husband sits to pee because he's like, "I'm too lazy to lift the seat up." And for the longest time, it was just like me and him. He's like, "Why would I make her have to put the seat down every time?" He's like, "I'll just sit when I pee." So he just sits when he pees.
Dude, at least he's thinking that hard into it. The problem that I've been having with my partner is, like, in between, because he games a lot when he's off work. So, like, he'll run into the room to use the
Oh,
bathroom
and he
hella
leaves the
fast,
seat
and because
up.
and no, he won't even lift it up. He'll just aim and think that he's making it, and then I'll go in there not realizing, and I'll sit
Bro.
down to go pee,
Bro,
and I'll sit in
no.
his piss. He's like, and then I'll get mad at him, and he'll be like, "Well, remember that one time that I left the seat up and then you went in there in the middle of the night and you fell into the toilet?" I was like, "Okay, that was one time. Do you wanna know how many times I've sat in your pee? More than I can count." I'm like, that's not a valid excuse.
And what is your message to, parents that are trying to medically intervene with their children?
I think it's important that you guys are doing proper research on the things that you're pushing onto your children. And I think that it's important that you're allowing your children a space to retain their innocence and you're allowing them to be children, have a normal upbringing, and not have to worry about the pressures of being trans, societally or medically, so young. I think that it is a form of child abuse, in my personal opinion, to encourage any sort of behavior like that for any child under the age of 18. They're not. If let's put it this way: if you don't think that they're old enough to vote, you don't think they're old enough to have sex, you don't think they're old enough to buy tobacco, you don't think they're old enough to go to a
Get
bar,
a
you don't think they're
tattoo.
old enough to drive a car, to get a tattoo, to get breast augmentations, like to receive like actual cosmetic surgeries, like electively. If you don't think that they're capable of making those decisions on their own, what makes you think that they're capable of having the ability to decide if they want to change their gender like
See?
that?
See what you're
This
saying?
is a
See? Is
lot
anyone
that
everyone
goes
listening?
into it.
Yeah. Everyone listening?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of risks that go into it, and a lot of these younger kids are not understanding the risks that are behind it, and it's your job as a parent to understand those risks and realize that they're not something that's worth it at the end of the day, you know?
Because your kids can't make
Um,
those choices. You wouldn't let your
they
kid get a
cannot.
tattoo, you're not gonna put your kid on hormone blockers.
Right.
Okay.
100%. You wouldn't let your kid decide if he wants to go to school or not. You wouldn't let your kid go out and, open up a mortgage. You wouldn't let your kid go out to the voting polls and vote,
Well, they're
if
not
they were
allowed.
allowed to.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
Can't get a license
It's
when you're
so
10, can't get a tattoo, you can't get a piercing, you can't like, guys.
can't get married till you're 18, you know? And people will be like, "Oh, but with parents' permission you can." And I'm like, exactly. And those parents are part of the problem. Those parents who are giving them permission so young to do that kind of stuff are part of the problem. Like kids need to just be kids. I remember when I was a little kid, we used to hang out outside on our bicycles all day. I mean, we would be out until the street to make sure to come home when the street lights are off or on. Like that was our curfew, back then. Nowadays, kids don't even go outside. They just sit on their social media, they sit on their TikTok, they sit on their phone calls with their friends from school, and they just feed into each other's delusions. And it's really, really sad. And I hate infantilizing the future of our nation like that, but at the same time you have to infantilize somebody who is that young because they do not truly
They
understand,
don't know how to make those decisions.
and they don't understand the repercussions that come with it,
No. No.
or the consequences that you could face because of it. I
Exactly.
mean, I don't know if you know of I'm sure you know of Josh Jennings. She was like that girl from TLC. Yeah, I mean, she has an insurmountable amount of medical issues now because of how young she was when she transitioned, and a lot of them are like internal medical issues that are going to require extensive surgeries or extensive procedures or treatments to cure. And at the end of the day, if you were to ask her if it was all worth it, she would still tell you no.
I wonder
You
if she
know.
would, or but I had a
Well, she's been very vocal in recent years
I
about it.
I,
Like she has.
I talked about her with someone recently and or not her, just this type of situation in general, and then we will wrap this up about how you go so far down this procedure line or rabbit hole of being trans that it's like almost scared to go backwards because then it's like I was
You're
wrong.
so used to it.
You're
Yeah,
like I
you're so
was
used to it, and then
wrong
you have
about
to
this
admit.
that
Mhm. Yeah, and that it's pride. A lot of people don't wanna put their pride aside and just admit that they're wrong sometimes, and you know what? It's okay. Ignorance is okay sometimes. It is okay to be ignorant. It is okay to not understand something fully, and that's why it's your job in those situations to do your proper research, to learn about it, to teach yourself about it, to make sure that you're understanding fully the situation before you just dive headfirst, and that's what I did. I felt this way and wanted to transition since I was 21, and I waited 4 or 5 more years before I started my medical hormones because I wanted to make sure that my body, A, was fully developed. I wanted to make sure my mental health was in a good place too, because it is a very extremely
yeah,
taxing
you
thing
want
on
to
your mental
take the
health.
time to figure this out. It's just like people. We
1000%.
have
Yeah.
to understand it's not about us not wanting you to be trans. So far from it. It's just like let these
It's about
children grow
making,
up,
yeah,
making
informed decisions
informed decisions when you're capable of making those
and
decisions.
yeah, and ensuring that you have boundaries in place that protect the most vulnerable people like children.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I
1000%.
am a firm believer is like whether you're straight or gay or trans or whatever you are and you believe these things and you need to talk about them. You need to talk about them. You need to speak about these things. Eh, It has to be talked about. And although I appreciate messages saying, I love that you talk about this stuff and I'm too scared to talk about it, don't be.
Mhm.
Don't be. Don't be scared to talk.
Yeah.
People are going to be mad at you. Yes, they are. But so many more people are going to show up and be like,
Supporting you
supporting
110%. And
you.
it shouldn't be about that either at the end of the day. It shouldn't be about how many people are gonna support you or hate you for it. It should just be about being authentic and being yourself. And if these are feelings or if these are opinions that you really truly hold, you shouldn't have to feel like you need to hide them or minimize them just out of fear of offending somebody else. I think the whole
Because that
idea
would
of being
make it a cult.
Exactly. People get way too offended nowadays, and I think people care way too much about what other people perceive them as. And it's like we came into this world alone, we're gonna leave this world alone, presumably. So there's really no reason for me to care so much what little Billy Bob down the street thinks of me if he thinks I'm a woman or not. Who
It,
cares?
it,
Who cares? You
100%.
know? Yeah.
100%. And I think,
It's between me and God. Amen.
amen. And that's all she wrote. Okay, so tell everybody where they can find you, and I will link all your social media and whatever else you want me to link on YouTube and on Spotify, so it shows up on all the show notes and everything.
Appreciate that. Yeah, you guys can just follow me at I am Avery Lockhart on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or any of your preferred social media platforms. I'm mainly on Instagram for now, but I'm hoping to expand in the future. So hit me a follow and stay tuned.
Yeah, and I always say at the end of the episode, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much for being here with us. We fucking love you guys. Tell us what you think. Message Avery, message me. Tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. Comment on the videos on YouTube and Spotify.
You know what we should do? We should do like a code word that for the people who've watched this far can write in the comments so that they know that like nobody else will be able to understand it. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
yeah.
Some like random
What
word.
could the word be?
Um, the random word is
Superfragilous.
um Um,
Donkey.
wig.
Donkey.
Donkey. Yeah, there we go, donkey.
Donkey.
If you've made it this far in the video, comment donkey and
Come to one of our videos on Instagram and comment the word
just comment donkey.
donkey. And we'll be like, oh yeah,
So
they made it this
ridiculous.
far. But we really do love hearing from you. If you think someone could benefit from this video, please share it. Please subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever podcasts are available. That's the places I check the most. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Until next time, guys.
And I just wanted to quickly say too, thank you so much, Cece, for having
Oh,
me.
you're
This was such a
welcome.
pleasure. This was such a great experience. If anybody's on the fence of appearing on the show in the future, just go
And
for
people
it. This
are. They
was
are. I don't
such
know
a
why.
fun
See,
time.
that's what I'm saying. That's what
This
I'm
was so
saying.
fun.
Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe.
Subscribe, like, and follow.